So this is the Tab S7 Plus, and I've had it for about a year and a half now. With the Tab S8 rumored to be around the corner, or it's already announced, or it's already out, depending on when you're watching this video, should you be considering the Tab S7 Plus? Let's talk about it. So this particular model is the Snapdragon 865 Plus, has 120 gigabytes of storage, which it is expandable. So that means that you can add a micro SD card support and be able to get more storage for like files and videos and photos. And you also get 6 gigabytes of RAM. Now, I will say the internal storage has been just fine for me. I haven't really touched my micro SD card support except for a few photos and videos. But the RAM, I do wish I would have gotten the 8 gigabytes of RAM version, just because as the apps get updated, software keeps improving, you're gonna need more memory to keep that stuff running in the background. So I definitely think if you can, get 8 gigabytes of RAM just to future-proof yourself for the future. And I also saw that for some reason the 256 and 8 gigabytes of RAM combo was a little bit cheaper than the base model of 128 with 6 gigabytes of RAM. So yeah, this is the base model personally that I have, but in my opinion, if you can and possibly get the 256 gigabyte storage with 8 gigabytes RAM just to future-proof yourself. As far as hardware design, I think this is a gorgeous tablet. I like the matte finish on here, the antenna bands, the way it's built and set up, it just looks gorgeous. This is the Mystic Black version. Personally, I'm a big fan of the way it's designed and the way it's built. It feels premium, it doesn't feel cheap at all. It feels really nice in the hand. Now it is a big tablet, so just keep that in mind. It's a big tablet. It's about 12.4 inches in screen size, which is getting near the whole laptop replacement category, but we'll get into that later. So as far as durability, I actually have a lot of scratches and a lot of dents and bruises around the tablet itself. Now the reason being is because I used a Samsung keyboard case, so there's a couple of things that are going on here. So with the back cover, it doesn't protect the edges, so all your edges are exposed, so you can easily bump it into a table or just slam it on something by accident without you realizing. So not a lot of protection going on. The back cover does protect the back itself, and it also keeps the S Pen safe, which is primarily why I use it, because I don't like having an S Pen exposed. I'm more afraid of bumping that and then losing the S Pen versus bumping my sides and edges on my tablet. But also because it's a book cover keyboard, you have access to that magnetic keyboard. Now, that bottom part of my tablet is where a lot of the scratches are, and that's where the keyboard connects. So I'm guessing that with overuse over time, after connecting to the keyboard so many times and so many different ways and aggressively sometimes and yanking it off sometimes, probably led to a lot of scratches and accidental bumps and whatever. But yeah, just keep that in mind. If you're going to use the Samsung keyboard case, this may happen over time. This is what happened to me, so just keep that in mind. On the front, on the display, I do use a screen protector. I don't know, it doesn't make a huge difference. It is a glass one, since there's no kind of curves. It is able to use a glass screen protector. So personally, I've had a decent experience with the S Pen itself. Clarity, everything looks sharp, looks fine. I haven't noticed much of a difference. But again, it's not protected, so if I bump it onto something, the screen protector itself will crack. So I can only imagine if I didn't have the screen protector, I'm afraid of how many times I would crack or even scratch up the actual screen itself. So for right now, my personal screen, the real screen itself, is doing pretty well because it's behind or it's protected by a screen protector, which, like I said already, does not degrade or does not make the screen quality look bad at all. So as far as button ports, you got USB-C at the bottom, which if you notice, there's a lot of scratches on there as well. And you also have dual firing speakers or quadruple firing speakers on here. So there's 2 on each side, which makes this tablet sound absolutely phenomenal. I think the sound quality you get from this tablet is awesome. It's absolutely amazing. It sounds punchy, it sounds proud, it sounds loud, it sounds good, and overall it's great for watching videos, and it's also good for listening to music every now and then, but definitely for the video part. Watching videos on here, the screen plus the good sounding speakers, absolutely phenomenal. I think it's fantastic. The display itself is a 12.4 inch 1440p 120 hertz display. I believe it's AMOLED as well, so it means it's going to be bright, colorful, smooth, and big. It's going to be a great display for a lot of things, but again, keep in mind the size. It's a pretty big display here, so if you're not going to be able to carry this around, or if you're planning to carry this around, just keep in mind the size. It's a pretty big tablet here. But overall, the display, the quality and all that, it's fantastic. I love watching videos on here. I think everything looks great, looks sharp. It's plenty bright enough, so if you have to use it outside for some reason, you're more than able to, but I definitely would not recommend that, just because I would prefer you be able to see all the true colors and stuff like that indoors. I think it looks amazing, but overall, the build quality, the display, everything so far has been holding up pretty well. I think it's been a great tablet as of now. So now let's talk about the performance and how it runs on a day-to-day. So my main usage here is primarily note-taking and media consumption. And I already talked about media consumption being phenomenal on here just because of the display. Great sounding speakers, great display. Everything's going to be fantastic on here for that. So if you're into watching a lot of videos, a lot of movies, shows, YouTube, stuff like that, you're going to love it. I think it's a great tablet for all that kind of stuff to watch stuff on. So as far as note taking, I think it's fantastic. So as far as my notes app of choice, I go with Samsung Notes. I personally think with the Samsung Tab S7 Plus S Pen and then the Samsung Notes app, it's the perfect combination. Samsung Notes gives you a lot of things to be able to do. Create folders, change the page template so you can make it be a grid, make it be an actual page, make it your own background. You can import your own version. You can just resize it. You can lock it. It's perfect. And then you get the different abilities to change the brush style and then the pen color, the pen size. You can type on here. You can do a lot of things on here on this Samsung Notes, and also have the ability to import and export into PDF files. So if you get a worksheet, you can scan it and then import it into your Samsung Notes. If you have a textbook, you can look it up online, try to find a PDF file version of it, or you can just get Amazon Kindle or something like that, and boom, you have your whole textbook on your tablet. So this, I think, can replace pretty much your whole book bag, everything from your notebooks to your textbooks. But again, all depends. Some people prefer to write on actual pen and paper. Some people prefer to actually have the physical textbooks because they don't like to read on electronics. So it's all up to you. Depends on who you are. But for me personally, I like being able to just carry one thing for everything. My notebooks, my textbooks, my notes in general, all into one thing. And that is my Samsung Tablet S7 Plus with the Samsung Notes. So personally, I've had a great experience on here. And then the responsiveness of the S Pen itself, great. It's fantastic. Being able to just easily hop on and start writing. You have the option also to take quick notes if you want to with the S Pen quick settings. I don't use the air gestures. It's the one thing I don't like. I'm not a fan of the air gestures, so not a fan of those. But overall, note taking on here and the S Pen is fantastic. And as far as everyday usage, like normal use, I will say that I do encounter a lot of hiccups and delays sometimes whenever I'm switching between apps. So as I exit an app and go into the next one, or just surf around real quick after exiting an app, sometimes I'll encounter some delays, some hiccups. And again, that's probably just because of the 6 gigabytes of RAM and the memory, so it just wasn't ready to switch up the system real quick. So that's why I'm saying I think you should get 8 gigabytes of RAM just to future-proof yourself and get that better stability and improvement in overall performance when you're using the tablet just on your general use. You also have a fingerprint sensor, which you can use to get into the actual tablet itself. Same with facial recognition. I would say both of them are kind of mediocre. So they're both at a good, decent performance. So if one fails, the other one should back up the other one. So if your face recognition doesn't work, you have your fingerprint sensor. Or if you're about to use your fingerprint sensor and it's not working at the first try, the facial recognition might recognize you right away. So, which is a good thing. So if one fails, usually typically the other one won't fail, and you can easily get into the tablet with little to no issue. And the same thing with the screen protector. Doesn't get in the way with the whole optical fingerprint sensor because it uses the light. So I haven't had an issue with that. So you're more than able to use a fingerprint sensor with a screen protector if you wanted to. And when it comes to gaming, I don't know if handheld games on here, the phone games that you would typically play, if they're really the best option when it comes to playing games on the tablet, just because this is a big tablet and using it handheld, it's kind of big. I definitely think this device is made for streaming. So if you're into Stadia streaming, if you're into Xbox game streaming, I 100% would think this is great for that. So this is a good sized tablet. You can connect a controller to it, whether it be a Stadia controller or an Xbox controller. You can even play some mobile games with just the Xbox controller itself. So I definitely say if you're gonna play games on this, I definitely would recommend getting a controller for it, just because take advantage of the big display and play those games on the big screen versus having to hold a huge thing in your hand and trying to play those games. Now, there is one game that I think is fantastic for this tablet, and that's like a two-player, in-person game. So if you're at a party or at a get-together, you can whip out your tablet and then say, all right, I challenge someone to this. This is great for those kind of games because this is a huge tablet, so it gives you a big screen versus having to use a little phone for that. This is where that comes into play. But performance with games, I think, have been good. I don't play a lot of games on here, but the few games I've played, every once in a while, it doesn't let me down. I think it's a good performing tablet overall in the day-to-day. I think it does well. Cameras, I don't know if you're going to be using cameras on here very often. The front camera is faced horizontally, so that means it's good for web calls. So if you're on a video call and have to go on a Zoom class or a Zoom meeting or something else, this should have your back. So if you don't have your laptop with you, or if you want to use this for that use, I definitely think you'll like it. The quality isn't the greatest. Obviously, it's almost like a laptop quality camera, so don't be too surprised when you see the not so good quality, but it's good enough, plenty enough. It's just a video conference call. Unless you're going to be taking selfies of this, then I don't know what to tell you, man. But as far as the back camera here, again, same idea. Not the greatest quality, but it's good for scanning documents, scanning papers. That's primarily why I use it. If I'm going to use the camera at all, I don't use it to take photos of anything. Again, if you're going to be that person out there using this to record stuff and film stuff and take photos, my man, I have a lot of respect for you. But you'd also have an ultra wide if you need that, and there's also a flash. So if you ever need a flash for something, using this as a flashlight, you're more than able to if you need to. But overall camera quality, I would say it's like a mid-range phone, so don't expect anything crazy out of this. So as far as One UI 4.0, personally, I haven't used a lot of the new features that they added. Only thing I did was just use the whole color palette thing and notice the rounded edges and the new design of the whole quick settings panel. So personally, not a huge difference to me, just those small aesthetic looking differences. But I use a lot of the Samsung features that were already introduced before Android 12. So good luck is the one that I use the most. So being able to quickly, change things so that you don't see the icon labels, you just see the icon itself. You can customize your app drawer. And there's also other Samsung features that I like. So if you have a Samsung device, you can get calls and text messages on here, so that way you won't miss a call and a text. You can connect all your Samsung devices together, so if you have a Samsung Buds, you can easily quickly switch between your phone if you have a Samsung phone and the Samsung tablet, which is awesome. So there's some ecosystem stuff if you're into that. So if you have a Samsung device, I definitely would say this is going to be a good add-on, because it takes advantage of the whole Samsung ecosystem, and you can use it all together intertwined. But overall, performance has been fantastic on here. I think it's been a really good, solid tablet in general. Now, but like I said, definitely recommend getting the 8 GB of RAM version. So as far as battery life, it definitely is going to depend on your usage. So if you're going to be a heavy user, whenever I was in class, I would say I lost about 20%. Now, I was in class for about an hour, and I also had the screen on the whole time. So I had the screen on the whole time, and I was taking notes, I was actually using it. So I would say it lasted me about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon after using it for class, for 2 classes, which were roughly 2 hours each. So yeah, I would say I got about 5 hours screen on time, and I got it good use until about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I had to recharge it. So, and if you're going to be a late user, which you use it every once in a while, for a video here and there, it will definitely last you about all day, and sometimes you can even get 2 days out of this. So that's what I get sometimes. Sometimes I'm able to get 2 days out of this because I'll be using it for just watching a video here and there, but won't be using it extensively. But when I'm in a class or just using it to watch a whole movie or lots of videos in a day, I can get it to last me the whole day, but sometimes I will have to charge it at some point in the afternoon. But charging speeds on here, they're okay. Has, I believe, 25 watts of max charging on here, so that takes roughly about an hour and like 15 to 20 minutes. So not the longest time you have to wait, especially with how big the battery is on here. I'm pretty impressed with that, with how fast it can charge. But it definitely has the ability to also slow charge. So if you're gonna trickle charge this, I wouldn't say trickle charge it, but just like slow charge it, you could do that if you wanted to. Primarily I do that overnight, so if you wanna charge it overnight, I would definitely recommend you to just charge it at slow speeds. But if you're gonna charge it in a quick instant, then I would definitely recommend the fast charging. You also have the ability to protect your battery, so you can use just 85% of your battery's capacity. So I would only recommend that if you really plan to keep this for a long time, for years and years to come, because otherwise you will be losing more battery. Obviously, that's common sense. So if you're only going to be using 85% of your battery life, you're losing 15% of that. So again, I only recommend that if you really want to protect your battery life and keep this tablet for a long time. Personally, I was at first, but then I got annoyed with how quickly it would die, so I turned that off. So personally, I've been using it without that feature. Again, you have the option there if you really wanted to. At the end of the day, would I recommend a Tab S7 Plus? Absolutely yes. I think there's definitely a use case for anyone for a tablet, in my opinion. But again, think about what you're going to be using for, and if you really need the bigger tablet, or if you can, get by using just the Tab S7. But also think about the Tab S8. So if it's already announced, or if it's already out when you're watching this, hopefully the prices have lowered. And if you're not watching this before the Tab S8 is already announced, wait to see if the Tab S8 brings something cooler with a good price, or wait for the price to drop on this. Then you can get this. But otherwise, that's been it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.